Hello once again, Niner Faithful, and welcome back to another episode of 49ers Playbook on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game. Opening week of the NFL season has passed, and what a start did the 49ers have. After an off-season of contract holdouts from Ayuk and Trent Williams, top starters Hufanga and Greenlaw still working their way back from injury, a rookie starting at right guard, changes to the defensive coordinator, the departure of the longest tenured 49er Eric Armstead, their first-round pick being the victim of a shooting, and then, topped off by the last-minute news of Christian McCaffrey being inactive, everything seemed poised to be against the 49ers' odds of a strong opening night on Monday Night Football. But the 49ers not only played well, they dominated on both sides of the ball. Jordan Mason had a huge night running behind an offensive line that was controlling the line of scrimmage all game long. Brock Purdy continued his strong play, and the defense under first-time defensive coordinator Nick Sorensen looked sharp, fast, violent, and in control. There's a lot to cover, but I first want to give a big thank you to our coaching staff, our members at JFA49.com. They are the lifeblood of this channel and make videos like this possible. If you'd like to support the channel as well as get access to all these videos ad-free and also have access to some deep dives into scheme and more extra content, you can head over to JFA49.com and become a member of our coaching staff. From quality control coach tier to position coach tier to coordinator tier, your support is greatly appreciated. But let's jump to the film and check out how the 49ers were able to be so dominant opening weekend. You're watching Johnny Dell's Football Academy. From the second drive of the game for the defense, we see the impact of Fred Warner and some change in style to Sorensen. So pre-snap, the 49ers are showing cover 2 man. Post-snap, you'll see a late drop down by Greg Odom into cover 1 lurk, with Fred Warner lurking in the middle of the field. Under Wilks, a lot of times you'd see cover 1 robber from this kind of shift, and Fred Warner would be tasked with man coverage. Wilks didn't like to ask safeties to try and drop late to pick up man coverage. But the way they're going to play this, Fred Warner is there to help on anything from the number 3 short and to the inside. So Odom isn't being asked to cover a 3-way go, he's being asked to play a vertical or to the outside. The Jets have a screen dialed up to Breece Hall. I went through all of that on the defense to point out that now Fred Warner is allowed to do what he does best, read the quarterback, then go attack, which is just what he does here and goes and punches the ball out and forces the first turnover of the game. On offense, the story of the game was Jordan Mason and the run game. A lot has been made about how many 8-man boxes the 49ers face, but it isn't always about how many men in the box you face as long as you can account for everyone. As you'll see, even from the tight shot, you have all 11 Jets defenders in the frame. It's how do you account for everyone? We're running a tight zone or inside zone. Pooney and McKivitz will work an inside combo on the 4-eye technique, Banks and Brendel on the 3 technique. Debo will pick up Sauce Gardner, Conley on DJ Reed, Saubert will pull and kick out the end man, with Kittle up on the linebacker. This gives you a way to account for everyone up to the safeties, who each have to account for their side in run support, so now Jordan Mason can be one-on-one with a safety. This is blocking perfection. You see Pooney and Banks handle the defensive tackles, with McKivitz and Brendel working up to the second level, Saubert gets the kick out, with Kittle moving to the second level, and Debo and Conley both pick up the corners. This is a gaping hole in the run game. Then you have a safety trying to take on Jordan Mason with a full head of steam who gets more yards after contact. This is football at its most beautiful. One thing Kyle Shanahan is so good at is dictating matchups against the defense. So we start out with a bunch formation with Ayuk up, Ronnie Bell off, and Juwan Jennings inside. The Jets are staggered depth. They want their best cover guy to that side, DJ Reed, covering the rub routes underneath as they're in man coverage. That's why he's up. They'll let the slot man, Michael Carter, take the first outside route, the safety, Tony Adams, pick up the first inside route, and Reed will sit on an outbreaker if they run rub routes for Jennings quick to the flat. We have a flood concept dialed up, which would work well against zone as it creates a 3-level vertical stretch. But being against man, this sets up well for the Jets as you'd have Reed on Bell, Carter on Ayuk, and then Adams on Jennings with depth on a short route. So we motion Jennings outside and you can see Carter communicating. Now it's changed who has who. Reed has to take Jennings breaking inside on any rub route, Carter will have Bell, and now Ayuk, your best route runner, is on a safety, Adams. He's dictated the terms of the engagement. You can see how much they like this matchup as Purdy starts his windup before Ayuk has entered his break against a guy who has outside leverage on a deep out route. But that's a winning matchup all day long, and it's a big throw and catch for a conversion on 3rd down. From the end zone, I also want to point out Dominic Pooney going against one of the best defensive linemen on the planet in Quinnen Williams, one-on-one with no help, in space, and he holds up as well as you could ask for. This kid has been an absolute steal. But if you followed the JFA podcast on this channel or the audio side wherever you get your podcasts, you'd know I've been high on this kid since the Senior Bowl. The drive, though, would end with a wild sequence. David Lombardi covered this on X, but the team was trying to run a play they talked about during the preseason called a per dog. But DJ Reed, who follows the 49ers on social media, may have seen them talk about it and was ready. It's pretty amazing that Debo kept this from being a horribly negative play. Back on defense, I want to highlight Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave. Both were fantastic against the run on Monday night. Here, the Jets are trying to run a wide zone toss. They both did a great job all night of working down the line to condense the run lanes. But overall, the defense has really gotten back to what they do well, which is play cover 3 as well as anyone, and it really starts with what they're asking players to do. So we're in cover 3 Mabel, which is a Nick Saban coverage with Mabel being an M word for man. Mooney Ward will man up on the first route outside and deep from this formation. Then Campbell will match the number 2 receiver. Jair Brown will then be responsible to carrying the seam. This is where things have been different, or maybe more accurately, more consistent. A number of times last season, you'd see Wilkes run a cover 3 on these downs where you'd have the seams carried by the linebackers, and he'd keep a safety in the flat area as a matchup on running backs. Here, Brown will carry a vertical down the seam, and Flanagan Fowles will pick up the number 3 to the flat. For Fred Warner, he then is responsible to picking up anything deeper crossing the middle of the field. The Jets are trying to go with run action and then hit a drift route or a drift stop route, which is a 7-step in-breaking route. Again, if Flanagan Fowles is the guy to carry the seam, he's put in a run action conflict. With him picking up the running back, that's no longer the case. You see the run action trying to influence Flanagan Fowles, but Brown is carrying the seam and Fred Warner reads it well and doesn't have to go far to drop right into the throwing lane. And Flanagan Fowles has picked up the running back out into the flat, so Rodgers really just throws this thing away with pressure coming. This is an example of how the defense is playing differently under Sorensen. We're also seeing Sorensen doing a nice job with his disguises and willing to move Bosa around. Far too often we saw Bosa always against the right tackle. Here he's over the left tackle, and we're showing man coverage pre-snap. The Jets have a good man coverage beater dialed up, a mesh concept. At the snap, we drop into cover 3 zone, and it forces Rodgers to hold the ball. That gives Bosa more than enough time to get pressure on Rodgers, and Floyd is there to clean it up. But let's get back to the run game. The team really looks different this year in their coordination in the run game. So we're doing our toss wide zone here, and this is a nice gain, but was so close to an explosive. Saubert and Kittle do an excellent job working the edge. McKivitz does a really nice job of getting up on Mosley, and if Brendel had been able to secure his block, Mason is gone. G-O-N-E, gone. But Jordan Mason just had a really nice game. If you want to know why Sauce Gardner got pulled at one point in this game, it's plays like this. But after a holding call, we do get a big gain on 2nd and 19 on some real nice play design and execution. So one of Robert Saleh's staples is cover 4 palms. It's something that if you've watched the channel, you're familiar with, so I won't get into too much on that. But we're going to run Ayuk on a clear route, have Kittle on a chip and release, which with palms coverage will trigger Sauce Gardner to a cloud zone. We'll then have Debo on a late motion and run a rail route paired with Jennings on a dig or deep in, or what Kyle calls a dover. This will trigger the strong side to cover 4. We'll pair Jennings' route with a short in from Garendo. That will put the weak side hooked player in a vertical stretch. With Gardner triggered to a cloud, the safety is the only deep zone player to that side, which is cleared up by Ayuk to give Brock a very defined high-low read. He's able to maneuver the pocket and deliver a strike to Jennings. But let's really appreciate how Purdy had time to make this throw. The Jets are running a stunt here with Thomas in the end slanting down and Quinnen Williams looping around. Solomon Thomas does hook Pooney and pulls him and tries to get McKivitz in a 2-on-1 situation, and it really does work as McKivitz peels off to pick up Williams, but look at Pooney able to be headsy enough to grab the other guy and blocks 2 guys while Jake Brendel watches in amazement. But one thing that was so fun to watch from the team was the commitment and buy-in to blocking. Watch Eric Saubert here, and the excitement he has from blocking. Then watch Colton McKivitz, who's been much maligned in his time with the 49ers. He's got to go reach a 9 technique, which is really tough duty, and he gets a 2-for-1 to get Debo in for the touchdown, and the flex at the end. Back on defense, another improvement we saw over last season is defending this play. If you remember back to the playoffs last year, there was a play that the Packers and Lions were able to hit a number of explosives on that nearly cost the 49ers a trip to the Super Bowl, the crack toss. It's where you crack down on the edge and then pull your tackle out as a lead blocker on a toss play. The Jets had already ran it earlier in this game and only got 2 yards, and here again, they only get a couple yards. One of the issues was personnel, how Tayshaun Gibson and Logan Ryan played this. Here, Greg Odom plays this so well, along with really good lane integrity. But from the end zone, you can really see how well they maintain lane integrity and just how good of a job Odom does. He played a really nice game. But on 3rd down, we're going to see the marriage of coverage and pass rush that we didn't see too often last year. So we're running our cover 4 palms, something Wilkes didn't run a ton of last season but was really prevalent under DeMeco Ryans and Saleh. The way this is going to work here is Mooney Ward is in what's called mod coverage or man outside and deep. He's in bump coverage that will convert to man on anything but a short route inside, and Campbell will match the running back on anything unless he gets an under or in call from Ward. This allows Odom to play like a trick safety and cross key to the 3 receiver side. From there, Lenore, Fowles, and Brown will key on the number 2 receiver that if he breaks out on anything 5 yards or less, it'll convert to cover 2 on that side. Now, to set this up, on the first drive of the game, the Jets had a missed opportunity on a drop pass on an open stick concept, which is an outside fade paired with a quick out and a stick route, which will sit down between the zones. So, having almost given up a first down to a stick concept earlier, this time Flanagan fouls is sitting on the stick route, which is where Rodgers wants to go with it. But he takes away Rodgers' first read, and even though Smith has Bosa in a chokehold, he still flushes Rodgers off his spot, and by the time Rodgers recovers, Lenore has dropped down in his cloud coverage to take away the outside route, and it forces an incomplete pass on third down. That's coverage and rush working together, the coverage giving the rush time to get pressure, and the pressure giving the coverage time to cover. Back on offense, more really nice design. So this is one of those ways that Shanahan designs stuff to attack what guys do on defense. We ran this little offset shift a number of times in the game, and I talked about it on X how it worked in the run game, but it also changes things in the passing game. So I talked about how we ran our cover 3 Mabel and how the seams were protected against the number 2 receiver. Well, with Saleh, when a quarterback is under center, a lot of times he'll go with spot drops, so guys will head to landmarks and not match or carry certain routes. We're running a flood concept, and the Jets are in cover 3 zone. Because Debo threatens the flat like a running back at a shotgun, where out of shotgun they have matching rules for the seam and the running back out of the offset. By doing it from under center, those aren't in effect, and it's a spot drop. So with Debo threatening the flat immediately and Bell clearing out outside, you have George Kittle wide open outside. But I want to highlight Jordan Mason again. This cut is going to live rent-free in my head for a while. So this is later in the same drive, or else I would have showed this before the big Kittle play as an example of what I was meaning about Shanahan breaking Saleh's rules. So here the Jets are playing cover 3 zone, and we're running Ayuk down the seam, Kittle on a scout route, and Mason on a choice route. I've talked about it on the JFA podcast and showed this exact play as something I wanted to see from Jordan Mason. So like I was talking about before about how a defense plays a running back offset out of shotgun, so now the defense is in what's called rip cover 3. The curl flat player will carry Ayuk down the seam. So Mason isn't reading defensive leverage on his choice route, he's reading which defender carries the seam, and he'll cut to the voided zone area. So that's the stuff they were talking about during training camp when they said they wanted Mason to see things the same way as the quarterback, and we convert a first down. So now you can see a little bit better what I was meaning about Shanahan putting Purdy under center and how it broke Saleh's rules. Then later on the same drive, Shanahan again attacks what the Jets are doing. So we've got a couple different options going on as Shanahan is expecting Ulbrich and Saleh to go away from cover 3 that they had been abusing earlier in the drive. So to the top, he's got a cover 2 beater with what Kyle calls a flag concept, with a corner route and a drag China. To the boundary side, we have a man beater with a choice concept, where you have a rub corner route paired with a choice route underneath it. The Jets show man coverage pre-snap, and Kittle and Debo work the choice with Kittle's route, forcing Debo's man to choose to work over the interference either inside or out. Debo chooses the way he doesn't go, and Purdy sees it and delivers a strike for a chunk gain. The Jets actually dropped 8 in coverage with 2 underneath lurking defenders, and Purdy did a nice job of holding them just for a beat and then hitting Debo. But after halftime, in a drive where they were just chipping away in the run game, we get another explosive in the passing game. So like I said earlier, Saleh likes to play a lot of palms coverage, and we catch them here. The way the palms will work, the hook curl player has to match anything outbreaking by the number 2 deeper than 5 yards. So we're going to run a read rail concept. And what does that mean? Ayuk is going to run a read route, where he's going to read the near safety. If the safety is in a backpedal, he sits the route down at 20 yards. If the safety is flat-footed, he's going to run it down the seam. And Juice will run a rail route. These are routes you'd be familiar with if you're a member of JFA49.com and have watched the route tree video. The run action sucks up the hook player responsible for matching Juice on his rail route. Ayuk's read route occupies both the corner and the quarter safety, and you get Juice wide open down the sideline for an explosive that sets up Jordan Mason for the second touchdown of the night for the 49ers. Also, watch Deebo Samuel obliterate this man. This is what I mean. They love to block. Then back on defense, again, great marriage of coverage and pass rush forces a turnover. So Rodgers sees the coverage and checks to a play action pass. As he comes out of the fake, you can see he pulls his hand off the ball to throw, but pulls it down for a second. From there, he tries to get it to Garrett Wilson, but Lenoir played absolutely perfect coverage, and the pass rush then had time to force Rodgers off his spot, and the throw is just a little bit behind Wilson, where Lenoir is able to get a hand on it and deflect it to Flanagan Fowles for the pick. But after a Rodgers special TD, I want to point out Lenoir not just for his coverage. The dude was great in the run game too. The Jets are going to try and run it up the gut for a 2-point conversion, and look at the way Warner and Lenoir fill. That is awesome. Back on offense, we get my favorite play from Purdy on the night. So we're going with a run action pass. We're going to fake a toss to Deebo to try and get the defense moving, and then run Ayuk on a go route, Kittle on a through route, and Jennings on a basic route. This gives Purdy a right to left read after the run action to the left. Ayuk 1, Kittle 2, Jennings 3. After the run fake, the Jets played it really well. The curl flat player picked up Kittle, Mosley works into the lane for Jennings, and the play is covered. But watch Purdy give Mosley a shoulder move to get him out of the throwing lane and hit Jennings right in the void of the zones. That's so good. Get to your number 3, it's still covered, and then manipulate the defense to open the route up. Then we get another explosive play to set the team up for a field goal that pretty much iced the game with another choice concept. Purdy with great ball placement, and Deebo doing what he does to be so special. Well, that's a lot of the 49ers' dominant win over the New York Jets to open the season. I really can't understate how impressed I was with the team in this game. Last year, they beat the Steelers in opening week 30-7, but this game really felt more dominant and felt like the foundations of what they need to do this season were much more solid. Last year, it felt like the Steelers were not a great team that played really poorly. This felt like a good team that didn't have a ton of execution problems. They just got outplayed, and the 49ers have the pieces to be an absolutely dominant team this year. As with every season, health will be the biggest factor. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to hit the notifications button to be alerted to when a video goes live. I'm targeting a Tuesday evening release for these breakdowns throughout the year, except for Monday Night Football games. But until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Niners.